Should I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am, you may.
Uh, the screen sharing is disabled. If you could change that option.
Done, ma'am. Kindly check on.
Thank you.
If I may begin with your permission, ma'am.
Sure, just a second. Let me also open this.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm Lisa Gupta, the host of today's session. I, on behalf of the whole team of Just Corpus and Stava, welcome you all in today's session on From Script to Screen, the legal blueprint for filmmaking. Before we delve into today's discussion, I would like to provide a brief introduction of the organizers and the eminent guest speaker of the day. Just Corpus is a body of legal professionals who have come together to bring various aspects and chains of law under a single umbrella. Just Corpus, an edtech platform set up in 2020, has a wide reach of 6 lakh clicks per month on an average basis on our website. The inspiration was derived from the ever growing need for law students. The Just Corpus has also incorporated an interdisciplinary journal and a multidisciplinary journal as its subsidiaries, named as the Just Corpus Law Journal and the International Journal of Law, Research, Education, and Social Sciences. At Stava, we aspire to be the leading trusted advisor for our diverse clientele, ranging from corporations, financial institutions, startups, governments, to public authorities. With a global footprint and deep industry expertise, we understand the unique challenges faced across different sectors and geographies. Our agile and innovative structure allows us to seamlessly address the strategic, financial, and operational needs of our clients, enabling us to offer a comprehensive suite of advisory services and cutting edge solutions. Whether navigating complex market landscapes, securing financial, or deriving in transformational growth, our team is dedicated to delivering best in class results. Now, turning our attention to today's focal point, we are privileged to have amongst us Ms. Medha Banta ma'am as our esteemed guest speaker.
Thank you.
Ma'am is working as a senior associate in Khurana and Khurana Advocates and IP attorneys. Her work profile encompasses the vibrant landscape of media and entertainment law, where she safeguards intellectual property and navigates the complexities of copyright and contract law. With a master's degree from OP Jindal Global University, her expertise in media and entertainment laws, including intellectual property laws in general, underpins her career growth and the ability to protect creative assets and ensure legal compliance for the clients. The path from academic learning to professional application has been rewarding. Her role involves strategizing media and entertainment transactions and drafting contracts that fortify clients' commercial endeavors. She is honored to have become a part of such a dedicated team entrusted by diverse clientele within the entertainment sector. Previously, she has also worked with Talwar Associates. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the floor to ma'am for her insights on the topic. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Lisa, for the introduction, and thank you everybody for joining in. I'm Medha Banta. I'm a media entertainment lawyer, and I work with Khurana and Khurana. And today we're going to be walking through the legal journey that a film takes. To just set some context, the film industry, it thrives on creativity, but behind every successful film is actually a set of well-structured agreements. Of course, in addition to everything else that goes on, the need for agreements in films is becoming increasingly important, and that's what we're going to discuss today. So, um, first of all, most basic question, why do films need agreements? So the first thing that happens here is that it clarifies the roles and responsibilities. Any agreement that we are signing, as if you're representing a production house or you're representing an artist or any other person who is signing the agreement with the said production house or producer, the role of an agreement is to basically clearly define the roles and responsibilities. What am I to do as a producer? What am I to deliver? What are my duties towards X person with whom I'm signing an agreement? This is very important because there is, prior to signing any agreement, two parties will always have a discussion, verbal discussion. They could meet in person, it could be over email, whatever the format. But they were going to be sitting and they're going to have a conversation. That conversation, when followed by an agreement, puts into words the understanding that they had. Now, this understanding will outline every role and responsibility of a party, and so that in future, if there is any kind of a dispute between the parties, at least there was a document in writing signed by both parties that clearly put down what either had to do. And then you can protect yourself if that there has been a breach, or if there is some kind of non-compliance with an agreed term. Second, and one of the most important thing here is to protect your intellectual property. Now, as a producer, you're going to want to monetize from a film as much as possible. So what is most important to do that is to protect your intellectual property rights. So in a film, almost every second person that is playing a part, and I don't mean just the actors, the singers, or people of that kind, I mean any person who is a part of the film in one way or the other has contributed to the film, has in one way or the other created IP. Some people, of course, the crew people and all of these people are not necessarily ones to have created IP, but the others who are creatively involved have in one way or the other created an IP. So as a producer, it's very important that you have the rights. Now, for example, I have this pen with me. Now, if I have this pen and, for example, Lisa wants this pen, but this was never mine. This was something I had taken from another person, maybe three friends of mine. One of them owns the clicker, the other one owns the ballpoint, and the third one owns the body. Now, if until and unless I can take from these people the right to sell, first of all, I purchase from these people for 1, 2, 3 rupees, whatever, each of the individual parts. Now, when I've made the purchase, the entire pen belongs to me. Only when this pen belongs to me can I pass it on to Lisa. Similarly, in a film, until and unless you have taken rights from every person who has contributed to your final product, you are not legally in a proper place to license it, sell it, distribute it. So protecting IP, and if you're going to be representing a producer, or if you yourself are a producer, you have to make sure that every part, every person in this entire food chain has to be assigning rights to you, which is why these documents are also collectively called chain of title documents. They are a chain of, they are documents that are transferring title, and this is chain of documents that collectively give you the right in a film. Now, like every other agreement, the point of an agreement in a film is to mitigate risk. Once everything's verbally discussed, then it's been put in paper. You can basically, you have in writing a commitment that a person has made to you, whether that's to do with money, whether that's to do with an obligation, whether that's to do with IP, or it's to do with a certain role you are to play in the film. And when every single thing is written, any party's non-compliance is easy to track, is easy to point out because it was written. So you mitigate risk for yourself. As a producer, if you're signing an agreement with all these people who are a part of your film, if something goes wrong, it's easier for you to find exactly where this went wrong, point out through your agreement, and kind of safeguard yourself. So therefore, a written agreement essentially also mitigates risk. Defining financial term, we all know that a contract is a combination of an agreement that is a combination of consideration. So every agreement that you draft has to have a consideration clause, a clause that is putting down the financial terms, a term that is agreed between the parties. Now, it's not necessary that this is a one-time payment. In films, a lot of times the payments we talk about are not one time. Sometimes these are profit sharing, revenue sharing. Sometimes, for example, you are hiring a big artist, so you're going to be paying 3, 4, 5 crores to just hire them, and you as a producer don't want to pay it upfront. So you can always divide these payments into tranches. You can have, 2 crores upon signing, 1 crore once the shooting starts, 1 crore after the shooting is done, and whatever is remaining, I think 2 more, and you can pay that once the film is about to go for theatrical release. So defining financial term for a producer or for even an actor, an artist, a line producer, creative producer, anybody else in the process is very important, because tomorrow, if you are not paid, then at least again your agreement has already given in writing that you were supposed to be paid X, Y, Z, and this has not been paid. In fact, if you're representing a producer or a production house in this instance, you may want to also make these payments, these tranches, become operational upon the payment of the first one. So, for example, I am a producer or I'm the lawyer for a producer. I want to make sure that if I'm paying money to a director or maybe somebody else in the process, I want to make sure that these payments are, say, in three tranches. I will only pay to him the second part of it when the first duty has been done. I, as a director, have three duties. My payment will become operational only upon completion of level one. So I get this payment, level two, then I get this payment. So as a lawyer, you are going to want to also make sure that maybe just to safeguard your client, all these payments become operational upon the occurrence of a certain duty. And lastly, of course, the insurance that you comply. So all these agreements will also kind of bind both parties to certain guidelines, to certain policies, to certain procedural standards that have been laid down by the production house. So that also ensures, if I am as an artist signing an agreement, then I am through this agreement also becoming bound to all these other regulations, policies that the producer may want me to become bound to. Now, within a film, there are four major stages. The first is the pre-production. If you're law students and you don't already know, a film is not just about shooting. That's just a very small part of it. There's the pre-production stage, there's the production stage, and then there is the post-production stage, and lastly, the distribution stage. The pre-production stage is mostly where the film is born. Once an idea is conceived, you come to the pre-production stage. That is where you decide who you're going to hire, who the crew, the cast, the location, what kind of a production is this going to be, who are the parties that are going to be involved, who do you want in terms of your line producer, who do you want as a director, what do you want, like every single thing from inception to shoot comes under pre-production. Once your film has gone on floor, you are shooting, you are in the production stage. Once the shoot is complete, you're in the post-production stage, where sound mixing, VFX, and final touches of the film and all of that happens. And lastly, once the film is completed, you come to the distribution stage. In this stage, you are now pitching your film for theatrical distribution. If you're not going for a theatrical release, you're pushing it for an OTT licensing, or you could also be selling it. Maybe you've created the product and you have with you the support of a studio or a production house, an OTT platform, one who wants to buy this from you. So you could also be selling. So these are these are the different phases in which agreements move, and we will also be going according to the set phases. Coming to the pre-production stage, the first agreement here is the film development agreement. Now, a film development agreement essentially is a contract between, as you can see, two or more filmmakers, where they admit to collaborating on the development financing. So two people have come together, have decided that, let's make a film. So they're going to enter into a film development agreement. So through this particular agreement, they're going to basically see, okay, this is our budget, this is the story that we have in mind, this is the budget, this is how long it will take in pre-production, post this, that you kind of make like a roadmap of how your film is going to go. We're going to start here, then we're going to come here. So you basically try, and also, like I said in the beginning, for every agreement that you guys are going to get signed through a client or for a producer, IP has to be taken care of. You have to ensure that you are at every single stage retaining IP with you, even if it's for the most basic thing, something like even a release form, an NDA. It's although not relevant, but you may just want to put in a small clause protecting IP, because at the end of the day, your producer, your client cannot do anything with the film until and unless they have the rights. And if they do so without acquiring proper rights, they may land into legal trouble. So you also obviously want to avoid that. So, a film development agreement essentially is an agreement that is between two people who have decided to develop a film. Now, once you go through the various forms, there is no hard and fast rule as to how a film can be produced. A film can be made by an individual filmmaker who comes in and who wants to make the film and who undertakes the task. He will obviously have crew, he will have people on board, and he may be the one who undertakes to make the project. He has the story, he has everything. Or it could be between two people, it could be between three people, it could be between a producer and a production house and a producer. A production house and a producer are also two different things. I will get into that as well. So there is no hard and fast rule as to how a film can be made. Now, in a co-production deal, for example, one person has a really good story. That's producer one. Then another person has the finance. They have the money to make the film. That's producer two. And there's the third person who knows how to get things done. On ground level, he has the contacts, he knows who's who. So these three people can come together and they can now make a film. So this is the co-production. So when you see film banners and you see posters and you see co-produced by, it often means that this and this party or these three parties, four parties, five parties actually have an arrangement. Whatever their arrangement is probably being put into this production agreement, co-production agreement, but there is an arrangement. Over here, what is very important is to understand responsibilities. Of course, if there's two parties or three parties or any number of parties that are co-producing a film, because a film is normally of a very large scale, especially in co-production, there is the possibility that one person's financing, one's bringing, maybe two, three people are financing, whatever the deal may be, whatever that particular transaction may be, that you have to really define everybody's role, responsibilities, who's doing what, so that A, there is no overstepping of boundaries, but two, also everybody knows what they're supposed to do. In between this many people who are co-producing, there could be the possibility of things not aligning. So you want to also make sure that everybody's roles and responsibilities are very clearly put down. Then we come to IP. Sometimes the one who's putting in the money expects that the IP is with him. If you are representing that client and that is also the verbal understanding that exists between all these co-producers, then you have to outline in your agreement that the final film product is going to be the IP of producer A. If all three are sharing, then you have to mention that equal share of IP. If there is to be a sale, if there's to be a license, if any money is being made afterwards, and this is to be distributed amongst the three producers in so and so ratio. Maybe the one who put in money is getting 50, the others are getting 25, or there is a separate understanding. Coming to profit sharing, profit will come after. Normally, what happens is, now again, if one person has put in the money, they are the one who are financing the film. He's also a producer. So he may want to first recover the money that he has put in the film. So in profit sharing, you're going to want to add clauses for recoupment. That my client, that producer A is first, if he's put in 2 crores or 3 crores into this film, you're going to want to write that first is going to be recoupment. Once the film has gone for theatrical release, whatever money comes in first, he will recoup. Once the amount he has invested has been recouped, moving forward, they will share profit. Similarly, put across terms to define losses. In case the film does not do well, which is the case for many films, then you want to outline exactly how are they going to navigate through a loss. What are they going to do in case a person has spent this much money, others have spent time and effort and given their expertise, but the film did not do commercially well. So how are they going to tackle that? So you're going to want to put that into your agreement as well. Now, one very important agreement, of course, is because the film, it's the putting down and the putting down in fixed form of an idea that one may have had. Now, somebody has thought of a story, they have written this as a writer. The writer could be the producer, the writer also could be the director, but the writer could just be the writer. So you have to know that one person who writes the story, the script, is going to be the one who has come up with this particular storyline. So you want to, again, like I talked about the pen, you're going to want to get every single part of it with you as a producer or as the lawyer for a producer. So you're going to want to get into an agreement with the writer that this writer has made this particular, now they written this particular script, and now they're assigning all rights in this agreement to the producer. So you're going to want to make sure that all rights are assigned to the producer. As a producer, you're going to want to do that. And as a writer, you're going to possibly have to understand why a producer needs you to assign rights. Simply because they are the ones that are spending. If you go ahead and read section 17 of the Copyright Act, that defines an author, that says any person who's putting in money, if your employer is employing you, so what you create during the course of your employment is the IP of your employer. If you made something during the course of education for an institute, your institute is the owner. If you're making something on a work for hire model for someone, they are the owner. Basically, any person who's putting in the money is assumed to be the one who has taken the burden of getting a certain thing done. Therefore, the IP belongs to them. So you're going to want to term your writer's agreement in such a sense that you imply that you as a producer have put in the monetary part of this particular script. Therefore, this was a work for hire transaction where the writer worked on hire for you, and that is why this IP belongs to you. You're going to want to script your agreement in such a way that it implies in all possible ways that this IP to begin with was always yours. You are the first owner. Whatever the actual way in which it reached you is secondary. As a lawyer, speaking as a lawyer, you will want to script your agreement in such a way that all rights, all IP, future, and also with the writer, you will want additionally that he be available to you on multiple instances. Now, his job is not finished the minute he's given you the script. Scripts are rewritten multiple times till the time you reach a final script. Even once the film is on floors and you are at shoot, sometimes something that's written is not really aligning well with when you're shooting it. So you may still want the writer to intervene, make certain tweaks. So you want him to be with you in the long run. So make sure that's mentioned in your agreement. Of course, the compensation clause and all are there. You will want to give him credit, and is rightly due to the writer. You do talk about the credit for the writer. And all of that should be a part of your writer's agreement. Now, coming down to the director, you have a service agreement with the director. Now, I'm going to not take much of your time because we have a couple of agreements we need to go through. So these ones I'm going to run through a little quickly because we want to spare time for the Q&As in the end. So the director's agreement is also one that you signed with the director, wherein you define the roles of the director. Now, one thing very important in all these agreements that we have with various players is that as a producer or as the lawyer representing the producer, you want to retain control. You want to make sure that someone who is investing the said crores, the said lakhs, or X number of money into a film project actually has the control. You don't want to give up the control. While the writer is writing and the director is directing and other people's, the actors are acting, and they all are bringing their skill sets to the table and they're all very, very relevant. As a producer, you want to still retain control. You want to retain control in the sense that you want to make sure, just a second. Yeah. You want to make sure as a producer that every person is doing their part, but they're not doing it beyond your decision making power. So you're going to want to retain control also as a producer or as the lawyer for a producer. So the director obviously is going to be the one that is in charge for the creative input. He's going to be the one that's directing the actors. He's going to be doing n number of jobs that the director does in a set. All of this with the creative assistance input and under the control of the producer. So you have to make sure how you word your agreement, because you do not want, because it's a very, very common dispute between producers and directors. The producers like aise nahi karna tha, the directors like I know better, I'm the director. So you want to already, while in person, as a lawyer, you have no control over whether or not a dispute can occur, because even after getting 20 agreements signed, you will be facing issues. That's just something that we cannot avoid. That's not something we can get rid of. But at least if we've written it down and we've written it and put it on paper that, when there is a dispute, in the event of a dispute, the decision of the producer prevails. So you put something like that into words, so you're kind of already protecting the producer. Again, if you are the director and you're representing the director, you will see clauses like this coming from the other side. You may want to sit down and discuss and negotiate and at least give the director some bargaining power. You have to understand, unlike startups and unlike corporate people or corporate entities or all of that, entertainment industry is an industry that is thriving on creativity. You can't take from a creative person the essence of who they are. You cannot take away from a director his ability to direct and control and micromanage everything he does. That just interferes with the creative process. If any of you are students here and you aspire to become media entertainment lawyers, it is very important to understand that in this particular industry, of course, you need to know the law. You need to know copyright law. You need to know contract law. They are the two laws, the foundation of media entertainment. But there is so much more to the industry that you will know with practice, that you will know when you understand how the industry works, when you know what a director does, or when you know what a line producer does. Once you understand what these people are doing, it's easier for you to represent them from both sides. It's easier for you to represent a producer in a context and a director in a context, because once you know who's responsible for what, and you know that a director is needing a creative space, you will try to give him that, but also the same, not without taking away from the producer his power, because you need to be doing that. That's the way a producer works. Now, coming down to the next, a casting director. So, there are casting directors. These are basically people who are brought in, who are contacted. Some production houses that are bigger in their administration, in their scale, they have casting departments within, but otherwise, casting directors are also separate agencies. So you can contact them, give them a brief, and basis your requirement, they find the right talent for you. They find for you people, they find for you the right person, they find for you the right talent, the face, the people they're looking for. So with these people also you have agreements. They're bringing you the talent, going to take a certain commission. It's either going to be a decided amount, or it's going to be a percentage of whatever the artist is taking. So you're going to want to put in words, so that if they brought you an artist, they have to also make sure this artist is not double booked, the dates are matching, the artist knows what project they're signing up for. If you have certain restrictions, the artist has to know that. And after having to pay a casting director, you should not be running around trying to find more people. So you have to make sure that this agreement also, like others, is very airtight. Now we come to one very popular agreement, which is the actors agreement. All actors, whether they are the primary, secondary, or tertiary cast, they sign agreements. Your agreements with your main leads are usually stricter than what you do with the others, because your main leads are the most important. You want to lock them in for a certain period, for a certain look, for a certain project, with the inclusion of n number of with the inclusion of n number of details that you want a lead artist to follow. A tertiary or a secondary artist is easy to replace, easily replaceable, but your lead artist is not. Once you have pictured, for example, in a film, when you're looking at the script at the writer stage, you visualize and you have now given a character this particular artist's face, and you have decided that this is how the film is going to be, this is going to be my lead actor, or this is the lead actress. Then you cannot sometimes negotiate with them. You can't negotiate on those actors. So these have to be very, very strict, very watertight agreements. You have to ensure that they're available for the project, that you have to ensure that they don't change their look, their shooting schedules don't overlap, if so, that you have the first priority. They have to maintain a certain decorum, not make announcements about the project unless you are ready to put it out. You have to obviously have a compensation clause for them. You have to have a lot of things, but you have to most importantly make sure that your main lead actors agreements are very, very airtight. You don't want to lose your lead actor, and in the off chance there is a falling out, you also want to ensure that the producer was safeguarded. While you want to absolutely make sure that this particular actor is retained, you also want to make sure that in the off chance things don't work out, you as a producer are protected. while you're trying to keep an actor, you should not lose sight of the fact that you are representing the producer and you have to keep their interests first. As similar, very, very similar agreements are made for the secondary, tertiary casts also. In terms of specifications and in terms of the services they render, what is expected out of them, what representations we take from them, we're a little more lenient because, like I said, they are very, very important to the script, but not as important as the main cast. Therefore, certain clauses can be let go on. Coming to production service agreement. Now, this is basically, like I said, production is not one kind of a thing. You can make a film in n number of ways. One of such ways is a transaction in which you basically you are a production house. Now, you are a production house means you are a production house like Dharma, like Yash Raj, and like all of these Maddox films, Excel Films, Excel Entertainment. You are a production house, that's one. And then you are an individual producer. There is a difference. As a production house, you can always commission projects to a producer. This producer is going to be someone who has industry knowledge, know-how, and you're going to commission them, you're going to give them the script. You are going to, as a production house, be the owner of the IP in the script, and in everything they do, you will discuss a budget, and within the set budget, set timelines, a pre-discussed approved list of artists and everything. This producer is basically going to execute the project for you. So you're going to commission it to them that for say 75 lakhs, this is a script, this is the list of artists, this is this. You have a 6 months period, or you have like a 1 year period or a 3 months period, you produce this. So this producer is going to produce this film commissioned by you as a production house to this producer. So in that instance, you sign a production service agreement. We call it a PSA. In a PSA, you will be now providing details of basically the artist, okay, the parties have agreed, or at all times as a production house, you want to retain control. You want to be the one who decides everything at the end of the day, and you want to make sure that this payment becomes contingent only upon the producer finally delivering to you the final product. Because this is a very, very, very common dispute in the industry, that a production house commissions a project and for some reason the producer is unable to finish it, and they come back that I have spent money on it, but the production house says that you have to give us a finished product. Where is the finished product? Producer says, I've run out of money, you had to give me money. It's a very, very common dispute. And just because we know that there's always the possibility of this happening, we want to make sure that our agreement is very, very airtight. We have written very clearly only when will the payment be made. We have written very clearly that the production house is going to be the final deciding authority in all decision making. We have to make sure how we can terminate, how he can terminate, or they can terminate. And as a production house, if we are representing the said production house, we want to make sure that in the off chance the producer can't deliver, while he is obviously open and he has the discretion to take any legal recourse, we have to make sure that at least in writing in the agreement on paper, we have sufficiently protected the rights of the production house. On the other hand, if you're representing the producer here, you're going to want to make sure that payment is dispersed to you not in one go upon the completion of your project, rather in small tranches. You want that once the project is started, 25% is done. Once 35 days of shoot have been done, you get your remaining 25. Once post-production is starting, you get 25. And once it's out for theatrical release, you get 25. So what happens is a producer of such nature who takes up a project sometimes does not have that kind of funds. That also stops the project in between. Production house says, give me a finished project. You say, I don't have money. So you, as a producer in this instance, try to make sure that you keep getting small amounts of money in between so that there is no financial issue. And if at all there's an issue, that is for some other reason. Money is not the reason. Now, if I won't delve too much into the detail of every single agreement because that could be a webinar on its own. So I'll just move to the next. DOP, so DOP is the person behind the camera. So you want to have an agreement with him also, like you did with the director. You want to ensure that this person is has represented to you that he's worked on previous projects, that is correct, and that he has the knowledge, the skills, his schedule is not overlapping, and you have to ensure that he is responsible, because he is responsible for the visual elements of your film. You want to ensure that he's delivering to you the best kind of work, and the overall look and feel of the film that you may have communicated to this DOP before you engaged him. You want to make sure that he's taking care of your requirements. Again, have good and well drafted termination clauses. You want the exit to be smooth, especially if you're representing a producer for yourself. But like I say again, if you're representing the DOP, you want to make sure that this exit and termination is smooth for you as well. You should not be arbitrarily left without anything months into the project, 6 months, 7 months into the project. You had a disagreement. Your agreement says the producer shall, at its own sole discretion, without assigning any reason, be entitled to terminate this agreement in 7 days. You never read the agreement. You never showed it to a lawyer. You said, "Acha hai, good production house, I'm getting work." You sign it. But like 7 months later, when you have poured your heart and soul into the project, and something's gone wrong, and they're like, "This is your termination ka letter, go." So you have nothing, you have no recourse, right? Of course, again, you can explore legal remedies, but the right thing to have done was to have approached a lawyer first, had them review your agreement to make sure that this situation did not arise. A DOP's agreements, when you are a media entertainment lawyer, you will understand what a DOP does in a project. So you will want to accordingly draft their roles, responsibilities, representation warranties, and all of that. Like the director, the DOP, there's a line producer whose duty is to ensure that day-to-day operations, such as he's going to be location scouting, he's going to find resources, he may assist in hiring of props and hiring of costumes. He may be doing all of that. Basically, the budget arranging for all that kind of stuff is done by the line producer. So these are also people who are they're going to be doing some kind of work for you, and that could be invoice based. So as a production house, you have to make sure that all these invoices submitted are duly approved, checked, and the validity has to be cross-checked before any payment can be dispersed. Creative producer is someone, for example, the sets and all are taken care of by a creative producer. So you want to make sure that when that you have had a vision of what this film is going to look like visually, and that the creative producer is working with you on that, not against you, not just as a separate person. He has to work in the interest of the film. So, pen down, it goes without saying, your termination clause, obligation, indemnity clauses have to be very, very strong. If you're representing the line creative producer or executive producer, you want to make sure that you are also at least equally, if not equally, but substantially powerful in some sense, because normally with production house deals, you can't be equally powerful. Now, there's an executive producer. Executive producer is two people in two different sense. One is that basically this is going to be the person that secures the finances for you. He's going to look out for a financer. There are film financiers, banks finance films. There are people who are film financiers who are specifically into the business of financing films. Then, like we did previously, they're going to get a profit share. They're going to get their money back. They're going to be investing in films. So this executive producer is like, maybe I and a colleague of mine are sitting and we're like, "Hey, I have this idea, I have a script." He says, "I know how to get things done." So somebody has to find some financer, some person for us who's going to be able to put money in the film. So this is the EP's job. Alternatively, a different definition of EP exists in out of India, wherein an executive producer is basically a project manager. Someone who's there's a producer. Now this producer has n number of jobs, right? The main producer I'm talking about. After that, out of India, executive producers come in. So executive producers are basically in America and all, people who are executively managing the project. They're project managers. So they oversee everything. Every person that's engaged, agreements are made and signed by them, made by lawyers. If someone's not performing their duties, it's taken care by the EP. General coordination of project production schedule. This that EP is one person directly in touch with the producer, and then the EP makes sure that everybody on the project knows what are the requirements of the producer, and accordingly everybody does their job. Film financing, like I said, once the EP is fetched you, the finance person, you're going to want to enter into film finance agreement. Now, this will talk about how much money is needed for the film, what is it like. You're going to obviously have a prior discussion, then you follow it up with the project name, tentative release date, because this person or whoever institution that is lending you the money also wants to know when you will return it. So you have to give them a certain timeline that I'm taking the money on, like over here right now, today, it's going to be returned to you in 18 months, 12 months, 15 months, 2 years, whatever the period may be. There's going to be a certain interest they charge on the return. That's again upon the discussions that happen, and what profit sharing they have in the film, what rights they have. You have to make sure that while this person is financing, here they're not the producer. They are just an entity, an institution, or a person that's financing the film. It's not the same as a producer. You do not want them to be getting any IP. So in these agreements also, like all the other agreements that we've spoken about, you want to make sure the IP is with you. Kalko, a film financing person should not later on, if your film doesn't do well, it's in losses. He says, I don't have the money now. All rights are of the film with me. I will sell it. I will distribute it. And you don't want to land in a situation like that. So if you're taking money from someone, your agreement has to have in writing that there is no transfer of IP, where you are merely financing the film for this project and that is not transferring any rights to you. NDA is one of the most basic agreements you want to get signed by every single person that you are engaging with. NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. This throughout the process in pre-production, when you are basically in the process of hiring people, engaging people, you are telling people your script, then you are onboarding them. You are telling people your project, then you're onboarding them. You're telling people about the cast you are hiring. Sometimes the script is not strong, but the cast is really good. So one way or the other, you're disclosing to them confidential information that is not for public access. So you want to sign an NDA with everybody, telling them that this information falls under confidential and cannot be disclosed. You can't disclose that information for X, Y, Z, or up to release, or for 10 years post release. Or if I am telling you about my script, you as a director, आपकी मेरे से commercials नहीं बैठे कल को, you can't go to a third party and make the same film with them because I couldn't pay you as much, they are paying you much, you heard the script, you can go and narrate it and they'll make it, right? You want to have this NDA at least so that if somebody does something like that, at least it is enforceable. So NDAs are very, very important. Even in fact, before you get into signing any kind of agreements, you get NDA signed simply because you want to make sure that whatever information you're disclosing with respect to a project is confidential and it's just not passing on to anybody like that. I'll just quickly go through. Lisa, we have up to 5 or longer.
It's scheduled till 5. You may proceed. You
I
can
think we
take
just take
longer.
10 minutes over 5.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
no
quickly
problem.
walk through. So a script clearance mandate is something you will not read in any act, any bare act, any statute, because this is something that is an industry practice. And surprisingly enough, I was speaking with a lawyer based in Brazil, and they too do a similar mandate. So the point being that media entertainment, while laws differ, India to Brazil to US to Australia to Canada, our laws, our legislatures, they differ, but the practice that remains kind of similar. This brings me down to the point that as a media entertainment lawyer, you're going to want to understand the practice. That is almost as important, or maybe a little more important than understanding the law itself, because the law you learn on the way. It's the practice and what people in the industry are following and doing that is important to understand. So a script clearance mandate, as the name suggests, means that once your production house, your producer has finished their script, they have finalized on the script, they send the script to you. So as a lawyer, you go through the script like you do go through agreements. You vet the script, you review the script, you add comments, red mark, flag, and tell them that so and so place is problematic. You're going to tell them when there is a trademark infringement, possibly in scripts, it's written. This person is standing and riding a Honda bike. Now, you're writing that he's going on a Honda bike. Tomorrow, Honda's going to come after you. Just an example. This has not happened. But tomorrow, that brand is going to come after you and they're going to be like, who took permission. As today, everybody wants you to take a license, everybody wants you to take a permission. Anything and everything that visibly shows the brand has to be accompanied by a permission. You can't do without that, because if you don't take a permission now, you're going to get a notice later. So it's better to be safe than to be sorry. So as a lawyer, you're going to want to review this script and tell your client and mark for them every small instance, big instance, where you see the scope of infringement, where you see that, name of an actor is being used. For example, you are there and you are saying, your actor is saying, the main lead guy is saying, tomorrow I'm going to come there like Shah Rukh Khan and do this. Good, you're writing that tomorrow Shah Rukh Khan may come to you. You don't know. Take permissions, and you have to tell your client that take permissions. It's non-negotiable, because you don't do it today, you may, I'm not saying you will, but you may get a notice tomorrow, and why to get into all of that? So if you're using a brand name, artist name, any lyrics, any song, if your dialogue is reciting lyrics, although it does not essentially amount to an infringement, you just want to flag it for them, because you want to make sure that before they start shooting, and instead of having to reshoot everything, or maybe bits and parts of it. Now imagine you have not gotten your script reviewed, you have been using all of these things I talked about, or at least 7 out of 10. Now you've come to me after the film is shot, and now I'm telling you, you use this, have you taken permission? Or you use that, have you taken permission? But you did not. Now what would have been easier, just getting your script reviewed and making changes before you shot it, or now to have to cut your scenes, or have to call people again for a reshoot, or have to edit and restructure, which may not be as neat. So instead of, or last option, you don't make the changes and you just sit there waiting for a notice to come. So legally speaking, always get your script reviewed, because you want to make sure that before this is shot, it's just clear from your lawyer's side. I think with this, we come to an end of the pre-production stage. The other stages are relatively smaller, because before a film starts and before people start shooting, a lot and maximum things in terms of preparations happen in the pre-production stage. That is why it's pre-production. You're prepping. That's when all your base work, all your prep is done. The production stage is simply execution. जो आपने इतने महीने homework करा है, now you are giving your exam. It's like that. So the production is everything you have planned before you execute it. One is location. Now, location agreement can be signed in both the phases. You can sign it in pre-production if while you are pre-production while stage may you have thought of a location you want to shoot in a house. So you can already reach out to a person and get an agreement signed, or once you've gone on board, आप तब sign करा सकते हो. It's up to you. You're using a cafe, you're using a restaurant, you're using a hotel, you're using any kind of place, a location, you get an agreement. Why? Because later on, nobody should come and say so and so happened. You never took permission. You took a permission, you had it in writing. Additionally, of course, you're going to be taking licenses if you're shooting in public places, roads, railways, metros, etc. You get separate licenses for that. Brand integration agreements are also becoming very popular. Now, you're watching a film and you are seeing this child eat Chamanprash, and he's saying, oh, this is making me so strong. And the father is saying, yes, Chamanprash is really good. Now, this did not come in accidentally. Chamanprash paid. They paid for it. They said you include our brand, you talk about a brand in your film, and that is a brand integration agreement. Your actor is going really fast and he stops, and it's a Hero Honda bike. It's showing, the camera's focusing on Hero Honda going like this, and then on the actor. It's no coincidence. Hero Honda paid. So this is brand integration. Sometimes brands, and very often now, brands want to be a part of the films. That's also marketing for them. If you go from that standpoint, it's marketing for them. They want to be a part of the film. They want a certain actor to say it, or they want that kind of brand visibility. So these are brand integration agreements that imply that this brand's product is going to be incorporated into the film in so and so scene, so and so minute. This is the dialogue. You have a set of pre-approved dialogues with the brand, a discussion with the brand, they pay you. They also kind of become sponsors in a sense, but that's only if they're financing. Otherwise, this is just a brand integration deal. It's For a producer, it's an additional source of revenue. This brand will pay 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 lakhs or so to just for that just 10, 20 second shot, but it may increase sales for the brand. So it's good, it's marketing for them. Technical crew. Now on your set, you're going to have technical crew, lighting person, sound person, other kind of engineers, camera person. So these are all your technical people, have agreements with them. These agreements may not necessarily be IP based, because a tech guy, a lightning guy, a camera guy is not really doing anything with IP. Have a small clause with them. You want to make sure that they know that this one, they don't bring their phones to set, they don't post stories online, they don't reveal the look, the feel, the film before you have approved that film or anything about it to go public on media. Another thing you want to make sure is that they're coming with certain insurances for themselves. There's a chance of getting hurt, so insurance, and we are not liable as a production house. You want to make sure that you are just safeguarding your client. Production crew is also similar people. They are not technical, they are just the non-tech persons operating. It could be the food person, it could be some driver, it could be people of similar nature. So you just make sure that all these people also have their agreements in place. If you don't want, and if your client doesn't want to enter into very big agreements with them, you can always have a 2 to 3 page or MOU for these, the tech crew, the production crew, and just spot boys and this that. You can have small agreements. You don't necessarily need to have very, very big documents for them. Now we've come to, like I said, that the biggest and most elaborate stage is the pre-production, because even for a film, most of the things are happening there. Now we've come to the post-production. Now at this point, our film has been shot. Now what we're going to do after the film, हमारे पास camera में shoot करे हुए, we have a couple of raw clips. This scene, this scene, this scene. And when your film is shot, actually, you are not always shooting it like how the sequence you see it happening. It sometimes, example, the film is shot in Delhi, it's shot in Bombay, it's shot in Chennai. So you will have schedules for each city. Even if your film is operating one day here, one day there, that doesn't mean the cast and crew is moving like that. They are not. Every scene that has to be shot in a particular jurisdiction will be shot. उधर का रैप करेंगे shoot, then they'll move to the other city. So यहाँ पर ये shoot करा, यहाँ पर ये करा, यहाँ पे ये करा, सब कुछ करा. End में you have a file that has to be compiled and made into a film. So that's your post-production stage. Of course, a post-production. Now, a lot of the big production houses have a post-production team in-house. Others don't, and that's a very common practice. And even the biggest production houses often don't have a post-production team in-house. So what you want to do is, once your film is finished, first of all, sign an NDA. Find a post-production house, you sign an NDA, because they are going to be in possession of an unfinished film project. You don't want that to be leaked. You don't want details to be leaked, story. You just don't want any part of it to be leaked. So you sign an NDA, very important. Follow that up with a post-production service agreement. This will define that they're going to be compiling the entire film, making into one, editing it, special effects dene hain, colors dene hain, color grading, other sound and all. जो भी करना है, I'm going to give you 1,000 raw clips. You're going to make them into film. Of course, somebody from your film will sit with them, the director and other concerned persons will sit with whoever is doing it or whichever company is doing, because they need to know the hierarchy of events and what's happening. It's done as a collaborative effort, but a post-production house or a person, an entity engaged in post-production, they're separate. Like you have production houses, you have post-production houses. VFX, sound mixing, color grading, post-production is a separate kind of mandate altogether. So then you engage someone, you tell them, this is, first of all, they can give you a trailer. Trailer बनते हैं आजकल, teasers बनते हैं. So if you are done shooting 1/3 of a film and you have enough scenes to give the audience a little bit of a tease, so you compile that, you give it to them, teaser. Once you have certain amount of shooting and you have content enough for a trailer, because ये सब pre-decided होता है in your pre-production stage. Teaser में क्या look देना है, क्या feel देना है, कौन से scene को teaser बनाना है, what scene is going to be made a trailer. That's almost always pre-decided, unless of course it can be decided during production as well. So anyhow, you tell the post-production house to whip that out for you. You have an agreement. They give you the deliverable. You give them the compensation. All IP with you. As a production house, never ever give your IP. Again, VFX, if you're making that kind of a film that requires special VFX person, there's a production house that's doing post production. There's a VFX house which is going to be assisting in inserting visual effects elements. So with these are people who are specialized in VFX. This could be an agreement you need, this could be an agreement you don't need. If your film does not require VFX, and you don't also require this agreement. So this is only applicable to projects where VFX elements are needed. So similar to the previously discussed agreement, you sign, write everything down, you sign everything, and you want to, in addition to any IP for the clips that you give, the raw clips that you gave them, you want IP in the finished product, you want IP in the visual elements they may have added, any VFX elements they added, any swoosh, any swash, any jump, any effect, any sequence. While that's something this particular VFX person or production has created, you want to make sure that in the end, this is mine. Because you cannot have everything in the film and the VFX guy coming and telling you, ye mera hai. You want everything with you so that tomorrow you can distribute it, sell it, assign it, or do whatever you want with it, but you need rights to be able to do that. Of course, once your film project is done, finished, everything is done, it's come from the post-production people, you're going to get an NDA signed with dubbing people. You can have in-house dubbing people, a team for dubbing and subtitling. Normally, again, there are different small companies that do that. Their only work is to translate and dub. So if you want your film to be made in 3 different kind of languages or 10 different kind of languages, you accordingly sign an agreement with them. First of all, IPs with us, dubbed IPs with us, all language adaptations are with us. Even if we're giving it to you, you retain no right. You are merely working on a service model for us, and that's all. You retain no IP in whatever language you translate it. It's immaterial. So you want to make sure at every single step, IP is with you. They don't exploit what you have given to them. You pay to them. They get credits if it's due, but you just want to make sure that your work, the one that you've given them, the finished film project, is not leaked. There's no, they're not retaining. Once they have dubbed and given it back to you, they're not retaining a copy. कि अपनी चलो खुद ही screening चला रहे हैं कहीं पे, that's going to commercially affect you. Or they're uploading it online piracy वाली websites पे, and your content is losing money. Revenue generation is being lost. So you don't also want to do that. So make sure all these agreements are also very, very well drafted, very airtight. You don't want to let anybody misuse your IP. Music licensing. Now, music in general is actually a topic for a separate webinar, separate discussion. It's a world of its own. It's got way too many elements which can't be discussed in clubbing it with the script to screen webinar. So briefly, if you're for your film now in post production is when the music is inserted with with the wo. When you're on set, you're shooting songs and all. तब तो गाने लगते ही हैं वो गाने, whether you have created yourself, you have taken a license and all, agreements come in effect for all of that. The background music, now for example, there's a sad scene, you see a girl walking and crying, so it's not like when they're shooting that music's going, that's inserted in the post-production part. When the final mixing and editing and all of that is happening, that's when this music, the slow-mo music and all is inserted. It's not playing when she's shooting it. So that happens in post-production. In general, music for the film is also prepared for in the pre-production stage. What songs you want, because it's Bollywood, right? It's India. You're going to have people dancing, so it has to be decided pehle. You want to license some songs, you want to ask a music label to make songs for you. You want to buy an existing song, or you want to arrange for a singer, composer, lyricist, and the entire music system. You want to arrange for everybody and create music. Are you going to do that, or are you going to license music from a label? That's up to you, at your discretion. That varies from project to project, that varies from the requirement of the film. Again, that's something we will get into in a separate session, leaving that out for now. Now, like we did the script review mandate, there is a standard and practice mandate for the film, the full finished project. Now, you got your script reviewed, that kind of flagged for you copyright, trademark, and other issues that could potentially legally impact you. You've made changes to that. Now you've shot the film, post-production, it's been compiled. Now music's been inserted, everything's been done. Now you have one finished project, film that is now good to go for distribution. Once before you do that, again send it to your lawyer. Now, this full finished film, what we as lawyers do is we sit, we watch the film, we make notes, we take notes of bits and pieces and parts of this particular film that are again not making sense legally. Maybe artist is running incidentally पीछे किसी brand का आ गया, although there is protection for that, but you still want to flag it for them. Maybe, a certain scene is visually obscene, you want to flag it for them, because if this film is made for younger audience as well, and there is a certain scene or a certain description that's not entertaining for a younger audience, you want to flag that. Sometimes there is stuff like religious sentiments being heard, जो आप script में नहीं देख सकते, but you can see that visually. You want to flag that. Now, obviously, some issues in the past have come, such as a certain actor running in a temple wearing shoes. So, as lawyers, you can't foresee what the public will get angry about, or a certain actress wearing a orange bikini being a religious sentiment hurting kind of an issue. It's just something you can't foresee, but there is things that you can foresee and that you can obviously let the client know. Now, despite it is very important for you to understand as lawyers, and if we have non-lawyers and producers with us, it's very important to understand that despite having a script clearance and going through an S&P mandate, there could be a public outrage on anything. We could as lawyers guide you legally in terms of what's good and what's bad and what's okay and what's not okay to put, but what can hurt public sentiments is something that we can't foresee. So despite this, you may come across instances that cause trouble, but that will mostly not have anything to do with a visually foreseeable legal issue. It would be something that the audience has picked out of nowhere and is making an issue. Again, there are always ways to tackle that. Now we are at the last stage, which is the marketing, release, and distribution stage. Once your film, now we've made the film, we've shot the film, we've done the post-production. Now what's left is to market, distribute, and sell it to someone if you want to. Distribution and licensing, once your film is done, as a producer, if you want to theatrically release it, we'll go to the next slide. And if you're not releasing it theatrically, you can license it to OTTs. A lot of films are being released now because theaters have to an extent seen a fall in the footfall. There is a decrease in the footfall. People are not wanting to come to theaters. They prefer sitting at home and watching, on their laptop, iPad, whatever, TV पर बैठ के घर पे देखना चाहते हैं. They don't want to go to theaters. So producers are like, okay, it's going to any which ways. Split revenue. If I give it for distribution to a theater for a theatrical release, I may as well only release it online. So lots of films that now producers also understand कि ये अगर theater जाएगी, it will not do well, because there's also a certain distinction in the audience. Theater going audience is expecting family dramas and that kind of stuff. Online watching audience is expecting thrillers. They're expecting something offbeat, right? Rom-coms are good. All of that is good for OTT now. People are not going so much for that to theaters. They're going for these historical movies because they resonate. Older generation also resonates with that. They're going for family dramas because as Indians, we love family dramas. So there's a certain kind of genre of movies that people are going to theaters for. I personally go to a theater for. And then there is movies I wait. Okay, this will come online, I'll watch it then. So over time, and when after COVID, I think when there was a shift in audience wanting to sit at home as opposed to wanting to go to theaters, the producers also studied this shift. And now they kind of, when they're making a film, they kind of analyze whether or not this should go to theaters or OTT. So if you are, even after a theatrical release, you can always license your film. So once your film is ready, whether it's gone for theatrical release or not, irrespective, you want to license it. I, as a producer, made a film is done. Now I want Netflix or Jio or somebody to take it. Either they approach me or I approach them. It could be either ways. You negotiate with them. a percentage. Normally in distribution, there's a percentage. Now, if I am giving you this film and through you putting this film up on your platform, the film is generating 100 rupees. So we have a revenue split, 30, 70, 40, 60, whatever. Normally, there is a revenue split. Sometimes this is for films, they prefer a revenue split. For web series, you're giving them the entire web series. So in that case, you normally take a licensing fee. Sometimes you pay a lump sum amount. Okay, I'm giving you 5 shows. I've made 5 web series, and this is 5 crores, 1 crore per show. Now, whether or not the OTT will also have people screen it, view it, see कि उसमें उतना substance है कि वो 1 crore worth है कि नहीं, then it goes on the go. Now, if the OTT ends up making 10 crores out of it, that's their profit. They just pay a one-time fee. We can't go afterwards telling you, I heard you made so much money, give me more. No, you got a one-time fee, that's it. This license is also a limited license in the sense that it will be valid for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You give your content for licensing for a certain period of time. That period is pre-decided, the revenue is pre-decided, who gets to do what with the content is pre-decided. And because you are licensing and not selling, you're not transferring IP. Again, your IP clause here has to be very strong that the licensor, which is me, the producer who created this film, since 4 o'clock, the film that we've been creating, that all IP in this film that vests with me, and you are merely taking this for licensing. So this licensed content, which is now my film, is going to be used by you, and you're going to use it for this, limited purposes of putting it up on a platform, displaying it over there. That's the limited use of my IP. You can create publicity and promotional content. That's you can create clips for that. Approve them by me. But other than that, I am not through this license agreement transferring my IP to you. I don't want you later on to create any charge or lien on it. I don't want you to create any other kind of liability on my content. 3 years are done. If I want to extend, I may. If I feel this is not beneficial, I'll take it back. All termination, exit, indemnity terms have to be very low. If you're going to get an agreement from the other party, 99% of the times it's going to be one-sided. So if you are not drafting it and you're just vetting it, you want to be very sure that you are vetting it very, very thoroughly, because there is 100% chance that it's coming to you with unfavorable terms. And if you are not reading it properly and just skimming through the document, you may not necessarily be able to identify the problems, and it could land your client in problem at a later stage. I do see some messages. I think I can take them up in just 5 minutes. Theatrical distribution. Now, as we spoke about OTT and TV distribution previously, this is theater. You want your film to be released in a theater, you're going to go for a theatrical distribution. Now, one very important thing to understand is that when a film is making 200 or 300 crores in theatrical release distribution, theaters में इतने revenue generate हुआ है, that revenue does not mean that a production house made 200, 300 crores in profit. If you have, for example, made 100 crore in your theatrical release, your theatrical distribution, this distributor is going to take a percentage of it, 40%, 50, 30, whatever percentage is agreed. So normally something around that is agreed. So already out of the 1 crore, आप 30, 40 lakhs तो उनको दे रहे हो. Sorry, out of the 100 crores, आप उतना उनको दे रहे हो पहले. Then you have people that you have paid. You have paid actors. You had pending payments for actors, or you had other payments that were accrued to you. If you're doing international distribution out of India, ये film जा रही है, तो you are ending up paying more. If you are an Indian producer and you want your Indian film to air in Canada, इंडिया में अगर आप 30% दे रहे हो, कनाडा में आप probably 50-60% दोगे. इसीलिए you see that out of India, Indian films don't run in as many theaters because you don't get good deals on distribution. So distribution, theatrical distribution agreement is going to enlist all of that, how long this film should run, that normally the theaters tell you. If it's not making profit, वो उतर जाती है. But what promotional efforts is the theater going to use to promote your film? If there's going to be an artist visit, that's also a promotional clause that your artist agreement that we discussed previously is going to have. Then generally distribution rights, there is no transfer of IP. This is merely distribution. whatever revenue sharing they're going to have, and the period of theatrical run, a committed period of theatrical run versus how long, up to what time it can run, depending again on the audience wanting to watch it or not. There's a merchandising agreement. This is also optional based on whether or not your film project has this kind of requirement. Merchandising means like you create t-shirts, right? All these superhero based films, you have t-shirts, you have caps, and you have merchandise. So now if I'm assigning you the right, or I'm as a theater, I'm giving you the right to uh, theatrically distribute my film, I'm not really giving you the right to also create all these promotional things. If I'm giving you the right, I'm taking money in exchange. First of all, this actor, this artist, this superhero जिसकी आप merchandise बना के बेच रहे हो, that is my IP. I created it, right? I'm the producer, or I'm the lawyer for the producer. My client created it. आप उसकी t-shirts, zippers, bags, socks, pens, you are making all of that and selling, but under what? I never transferred IP to you. I merely asked you to distribute. So remember, licensing and distribution don't mean the assignment of right. So if anyone's telling you that, okay, you gave me the license to use it, you only gave them the license to use the film on OTT or TV or distribute it. You never gave them the license to merchandising your content. And if you are the one signing an agreement for your lawyer, you have to make sure that you don't allow for anything and everything, because you need to understand merchandising is altogether a different revenue stream. अगर आप डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन से 10 रुपए बना सकते थे, और आप मर्केंडाइजिंग से 5 रुपीज बना सकते हो, ठीक है? सो इफ यू आर नॉट स्पेशली आस्किंग फॉर सेपरेट रेवेन्यू और सेपरेट मनी फॉर मर्केंडाइजिंग, आप उस अपने प्रोड्यूसर को सिर्फ 10 रुपए दिलवा रहे हो, whereas he was capable of getting 15. Now this is not 15 or 10 rupees, this is 15 crores and 10 crores, so you're causing him 5 crores in loss, right? So you have to make sure that any agreement you're signing like this specifically prohibits merchandising, because you want to use merchandising as a separate revenue stream. Marketing and production agreement, normally you want to engage, once your film is completed, you want to engage marketing agencies. These agencies are going to help you in promotion. This is actually marketing and promotion agreement, not production. Sorry. So you're going to want to engage marketing and promotion agencies. They're going to tell you the right way to market your film. Promotions कहाँ करनी है, किस location पे करनी है. PR agencies होती हैं. So you engage them. They tell you, the right audience to promote your film, to right way to take your film forward, so that you kind of attract the interest of audience, and later on आपकी film की distribution, theatrical release पे people come to watch. Targeting the right audience in the right way will always have, as a result, increased footfall in your theatrical release. So these are again agreements that you want to sign with these people. Endorsement agreements. Now, if you are engaging a producer, now there's this influencer culture, right? So normally you see that one song of a film goes really popular. Next thing you know, influencers are making reels on that song with the actors. So that's, they're endorsing. What they're doing is I, as a person, am capable of influencing 10,000 people. But the minute I engage an influencer, my reach has already increased X number of times because of the reach of the said influencer. So they are going to be endorsing. This endorsement could be between a brand. This could be between endorsement could be done through a brand. Like for instance, a brand could be endorsing your film if your film is to do with again a superhero, a child who's very strong and is helping people kids out. So you could still have Complan, Bonvita, Prash, and all those kinds of brand wanting to endorse you to show that this kid who's really something has become so because he drank Complan. So they all come for endorsement one way or the other. They want to endorse your film. It's mutually benefiting. आपको उनके audience मिल जाते हैं, उनको आपके audience मिल जाते हैं. Now, the last agreement, I think, is sale or transfer. Now, if you have not chosen to distribute or license, and if you have done everything and you have just made the film with the intention that somebody will buy it. I made this film for 10 crores. I spent 10 crores on making the film. The finished film looks really good. It's very captivating. It has all the right elements. and you think a production house, a studio, an OTT, somebody is going to want to, you will take your film, pitch it to them, NDA is compulsory, get it signed. So you take it to them, you pitch it to them. This is the pitch we're talking about, right? You go to them, you pitch it to them, and then anyone who shows interest will take your film. Then you initiate. So now all this time, all the rights we were taking, every agreement, the IP, we were kind of collecting and keeping with us in all agreements, everything, the chain of title that हमने इतनी देर में इकट्ठा करा है. Why was this? Because today, if I want to sell this agreement, I am the rightful owner of the pen. I got the tip, I got the body, I got the ink, it's with me. I want to give it to you, I can. Right? I am at the liberty to. Then again, this will be negotiated. Now you want, when you sell or transfer IP, it's mostly all in. You get paid a lump sum amount for giving every right that was there with you in the film. Now you sell it for 20 crores. Tomorrow the person you sold it to makes 200 crores. That's just how it is. You can't go after them afterwards asking for more money because you've already committed to something in your agreement. So a sale or transfer of IP will basically transfer everything, including IP. It will give the every single right that you held in this film, as long as you did not sell it, it will transfer to them, and whatever jurisdiction and how they want to exploit it, that's all going to be transferred. But again, if you are entering into, if your verbal discussion is different, right? If what you've spoken to them verbally is that you can, I'm transferring IP to you only for India. Out of India, I will exploit. India may anything and everything you do, out of India, I will do. So maybe that's your arrangement. Again, put that down in your agreement. You have to then be very specific in how you word it. And for both sides, you want to make sure that neither party is giving more rights than it wants. And if you are just completely buying it out, if you are someone who's now buying out, maybe this whole process that we discussed, you weren't the one making it, you're buying it. So if you're buying it, then make sure you're buying everything. There's not one part of it that you miss out. Script hai, screenplay hai, underlying work hai, gaane hai. If you're buying, you want to make sure and check all these agreements. Now, one very important thing. Now, we've spoken from the standpoint of a producer who has made all of this. Now, if you are person who's buying, then every agreement that we have spoken about, make sure they have it. If it is, of course, applicable to them, make sure all their agreements are in place. Make sure rights have been assigned, because now I am telling you, I never really asked my friend. I never asked. I knew he would give it to me if I asked, but I never asked my friend, can I take the pen? I'm like, yeah, you take it, he'll be okay. Tomorrow he's coming after you. So you have to make sure that if has this person taken all rights, all agreements are in place, all rights have they been assigned properly, do all agreements talk about IP, उनके पास सारे rights in whatever way properly हैं. If any agreements are missing, have them signed before you sign this agreement. Get everything down on paper so that tomorrow nobody comes and questions your free enjoyment of the said film. So just in case they don't have any agreements, send it to them, ask them to make it, sign it, whatever. But in the end, just make sure that if you're buying a film, it is accompanied by all these documents. So yeah, all of that. And I think the key takeaways here are that, as you have heard, that agreements are actually the backbone of a successful film. Of course, the creative that is involved is extremely important. But if tomorrow you can't legally protect what you did or legally prove that you did that, or you can't enjoy a right because you never had agreements in place, then that just defeats the purpose of the whole creative process as well, right? Second thing is, as a production house or even as a person signing, the other party signing the agreement, a strong contract will provide you some kind of financial security. Your agreement will enlist how much money is due to you, when it is due to you. If your producer does not pay you, you can always go back to the agreement and be like, this was due to me. often small producers and production houses don't sign agreements. So if you are on the other side, you're the receiving side. Maybe you are right now attending a seminar, the webinar, you are a line producer, a creative producer, EP. Insist on signing an agreement. Be like, I want to sign it. At least if something goes wrong tomorrow, there is a neck you can hold, right? You have a contract. So do that. And it's happened so many times that without legal safeguards, even the best films, they can face significant hurdles. If you don't have agreements, you never secured the rights, you didn't really expect your film to do very well, आपने बस सबको engage करा, काम करा, खत्म करा, कल को film becomes successful, and then you have 50 people messaging you, मेरे को पैसे दो, मुझे पैसे दो, मुझे ये दो, मुझे क्यों? Because आपने कभी starting में agreement sign ही नहीं करवाया. You want to make sure that all agreements are executed. If somebody is signed for 50 rupees, unke 50 de do. If someone signed for 100, unke utne de do. Don't leave it to them to decide once your film is a super hit to come and ask for 500 instead of 50. So have everything, all documents in place, and you're going to be very, very thankful for that at a later stage. Yeah, so I think we are now open for discussions.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your valuable and very interesting insights. It
Thank
was
you.
indeed an enriching experience. Now we have invited all our participants to engage in the question and answer round, and we have already collected and shortlisted the questions. So, during the course of your lecture, you have already addressed a lot of questions. So, as to avoid repetition and due to the paucity of the time, I will ask you a question and you may answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first question that we have received is, what are the most common legal pitfalls filmmakers face when adapting a script into a film, and how can they mitigate risks related to intellectual property, contracts, and distribution?
I think we have majorly discussed
Yes,
throughout
yes.
the webinar how something can go wrong, and how an agreement being in place can actually support you and help you. So basically there is, and if you are not structured in terms of law, in terms of being legally sound, if you're not signing agreements, you are engaging. So what happens, it's less common in Mumbai because Mumbai is a bigger national level industry. It's more common in regional industries. So say Marathi cinema, that is a regional industry. Punjabi cinema is a regional industry. The cinema that's the Tamil Tollywood, I think we call it. So that's all regional. Unme kya hota hai? It's based on industries. It's based on small areas. Punjabi cinema is running, on the basis of a small state, and mostly because again there's a state and then there is a very small industry, right? So within the industry everybody knows everybody, so you are not signing agreements because you know him. आपकी उससे उस दिन बात हुई थी, you never signed an agreement. उसने आपको कहा मैं कर सकता हूँ, you never signed an agreement. That is one of the major reasons for a pitfall, because you spoke to them but you never got it in writing. You had a word, you had a commitment. Tomorrow you are waiting for him, he doesn't show up, or tomorrow he's asking for so much more than what you thought he would, because you never hide it in writing. In fact, recently I was working on a Punjabi regional film project. So we had an agreement for a line producer and everybody, right? So the line producer was apparently allegedly overcharging. He was going to a place and he was saying that, this location for 1 day shoot is for this much amount, whereas it was for one third the amount. So two, three instances like that happened. But this particular producer production house was very, very sound. They had an agreement with him. They got it signed beforehand. Now, when this guy was working, he was kind of, not working ethically. So they had an agreement termination clause. They sent him a termination letter, first of all, through email. They told him 15 days period of termination intimation starts now, and 15 days later, they sent him a termination letter. Sorted, closed. Because you have an agreement, right? नहीं तो आप लड़ते ही रह जाओगे.
Uh, the next question is, what things need to be kept in mind while shooting a film which is derived from a book? Can we change the character name without changing the crux of the story to avoid copyright?
First of all, if you're making a film based on a book, primarily I would recommend any client to go and take permission. Even the writers, the authors make money. It's a secondary source of revenue, right? They're already making money if the novel was that popular that it has also inspired you to make a film, right? So that means the author has already earned through a set of revenue from the books, from the sale of books, and maybe is now earning in royalty. So now when you go to them and you ask them that I want to make a film, an adaptation, it's called adaptation. You want to make an adaptation of the said novel into a film. You are changing the mode. It was in literary, you are taking it to cinematographic, right? So you want to change, so you can just simply go and ask for a permission. You get a license to make the film, an adaptation, right? You take that, and once you're doing that, then you get into conversations with the author. Having and being in touch with them normally helps much more than you can realize, because they are the ones who wrote the novel. They know what happened, why and when. And if you want to change the names, you want to change something, because even from script to screen, जब आप shoot करते हो ना, कुछ चीजें बदलती हैं. What's written is not necessarily capable of being uh, done when you're shooting. So even with adaptations, there are bound to be certain things that you will have to change for cinematographic effect. You want a film to have that pizzazz, and you can't do that without adding elements. So you want to make that. So if you have taken permission, then you can always have this as a part of your negotiation, that we're going to want to make tweaks. Now, because you're going to have to pay this particular author, there's two reasons for why you won't take permission. One is that you have to pay and you don't want to pay. One is that they're not only allowing. There's two things, right? So if payment and all is sorted, and assuming that things are going right, you can always ask them, take permission. And in that agreement you get signed by them, now there's going to be an NOC. NOC is a no objection certificate. You get that signed, they have no objection to you making an adaptation. Then you make an adaptation agreement. Okay, so in that you enlist that this is the film, this is the novel, this is being made. We are at the liberty to make creative changes, to adjust to the screen, to a cinematographic effect. देने के लिए we can make the set changes. Now, third option is that you have not only taken permission. So now you will change the name of the characters, the place, and all. Try and make it. While I don't advise you do that, if you are doing that, try to make it absolutely not something that a person can see and understand this was a novel. The test the courts follow in when they're checking if something's a copyright infringement is checking that a ordinary man of common prudence, you must have heard that phrase, right? An ordinary man of common prudence, can he see and tell that this is copyright, this is similar to something else? So if a person is watching your film, can they, you copying fault of a star, fault in a stars, okay, and you are doing XYZ with it, you've changed everything, but the sense of the film is the same. Someone sees and they're like, doesn't it look like that? Can a common man tell? If a common man can tell, it is a visible copy. So if you want to really do that, make it so unidentical that nobody can tell. फिर आप नाम चेंज करो, पर्सन चेंज करो, कुछ भी चेंज कर लो.
Understood, ma'am. The next question is how contents are regulated in OTT, especially in the light of recent controversy of Ranveer Alavadia.
So basically your OTTs, the fact that they are available only through internet, whether it's on as an app or as a website, they're available only on internet. So they're governed by the IT Act, the IT rules. So therefore, you may also see that certain content which is incapable of release theatrically is very much capable of being released online, because of the fact that a theatrical release is governed by the Cinematographic Act, which has certain restrictions on age, viewership, and what can and cannot be put in cinemas, versus OTT, that is not only being regulated by an act that has anything to do with cinema, it's being regulated by the IT Act. Now, when you come to the recent controversy with India's Got Lennon, I think usme the thing here is that any person if is found saying obscene content, IT Act se pehli baat to that is being governed by IT Act. It was on YouTube. YouTube is being governed through the IT Act. The IT Act has provisions for any person who's engaging or using obscene language, obscene conduct. So he will probably be entertained under the said provisions. It has nothing to do with OTT as such. because OTT is running on a separate tangent and YouTube's running separately. OTT is a platform where you have web series and contents, and YouTube is streaming short and long videos. So unrelated, but yes, governed by the same act. So if any artist or any person for that matter is engaging in a certain kind of conduct, it will be governed by the relevant provisions of the act.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, if movie is banned by any state or film, running is stopped by some organizations. So who is responsible for this loss? So if state has banned the film or some organization has stopped its screening.
So basically, there are certain films like Kerala Stories, I think that was one of
Yeah,
the
and
films, right?
even Padmavat faced a lot
Yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah. So Padmavat means they had to change the name, right? So that obviously that could have, in terms of making the film, in terms of the changes they have had to make, they may have incurred some monetary issues also. But uh, if a certain state bans it, first of all, if it is the ban is imposed by the state, then it is normally done under the pretext of it causing disturbance in the state. And states are actually permitted to take an action of such nature. Now, normally when क्या होता है कुछ release हुआ, there is public outrage, people are unhappy with the film. Now, Padmavat mein they're saying that this is not correctly depicting the facts, and this Maharani was from our state and he was showing the wrong things. ऐसा नहीं था. This was not the case. This was not, and you were seeing a lot of protests, a lot of public unrest. So the state has the discretion to take such a decision. Now, once the state has taken the decision, production houses are again, they have the choice to challenge it. They can go to the Supreme Court, challenge the decision, and you may have seen so many times that Supreme Court removes or lifts a ban. So it bases the discussion. So obviously, if it does not run in a certain state, वो जो revenue stream हमारा वहाँ की distribution का था, we lose it. But in today's time, if you lose revenue from a certain state, while it is loss causing in terms of theatrical distribution, जब आप ओटीटी पे डालोगे फिर वो महाराष्ट्र में तो बैन नहीं होगा, या वो किस छत्तीसगढ़ में तो बैन नहीं होगा, फिर वो वंस इट्स ऑन ओटीटी इट्स अवेलेबल फॉर एवरीबडी. देन इफ यू आर फ्रॉम अ सर्टेन प्लेस एंड इट्स हर्टिंग योर sentiments, don't watch it. Don't go and watch it. But now films and producers have different means to go and recover money. Of course it's a loss, and you can always challenge a decision of such nature and then have it released for public who is not actually offended by it. But like otherwise, you always have the option of an for OTT release.
Thank you, ma'am. That would be all the questions.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so if I have your permission, I would like to proceed with the final closing.
Yes, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you so much for having me for the session. And it was really quite interesting to be delivering a session on all these rights, because while we're doing it every day, it's very rewarding to be able to share it with others.
Thank you, ma'am. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to Medha ma'am for accepting our invitation and delivering such an informative session. We trust that the audience found it both interesting and knowledgeable. Thank you once again, ma'am, and we eagerly anticipate the opportunity to host you again.
Thank you. Likewise. We will most
Thank
certainly connect again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. Good